What's up, guys? Edrone here, and today we're going to be showing you how to conformal coat waterproof your FPV drone. Stay tuned. Something recently that I've stumbled across is silicone modified conformal coating. This is a giant bottle you can get off Amazon. I'll put a link down in the description for this item. And you can actually take this and basically waterproof your FPV drones or any other kind of electronics. That's what we're going to be doing in this video. You might be asking yourself, why would you want to do this? Very simple. If you are getting a lot of rain, as we are right now, I really can't fly this quad in the rain, even a light mist, without risking damaging the electronics. So once I conformal coat everything on this quadcopter will actually be able to fly in the light mist rain. If I happen to land in a puddle or if it's snowing out and I land in the snow, this is basically going to weatherproof, waterproof my quad and prevent it from shorting out or damaging. Now, this is just an extra precaution you can take, and I must note that it's a lot easier to do this in the very beginning as you're building your quadcopter. This quadcopter has already been built, so it's going to be a lot more tedious and a lot more involved as far as using the conformal coat and conformal coating everything. All the ESCs have to be taken out and the heat shrink removed in order to conformal coat all these ESCs. I've got to take off the top plate and get to the VTX, the receiver, pretty much everything on here that has a soldering connection needs to be taken out so I can conformal coat it. But before we can do that, I have got to clean this guy. You see how nasty this quad is. I've even cleaned this quad out using some of the CRC electronic cleaner. And while it did do a good job at removing a lot of the dirt, there's still a lot of dirt that needs to come off. So how exactly are we going to be removing that dirt? I'm going to show you today. We're going to be taking some isopropyl rubbing alcohol with a little soft bristled toothbrush, and we're going to be taking apart the top plate, and we're going to be scrubbing off all the boards, all the connections, and getting this quadcopter nice and clean so that we can apply a couple coatings of this silicone conformal coating to waterproof it. The first thing we're going to do is go ahead and remove this top plate. You can see we got the top plate removed. You see how muddy and dirty it is inside here. So to make this even easier, we're going to go ahead and remove the 4 props. To basically clean all these components off using our rubbing alcohol and this little soft bristled toothbrush. We're going to get in here and scrub all these components and try to get all the dirt off as much as we can, and then we'll start taking off the heat shrink off of the components that have heat shrink, like the receiver, the VTX, the speed controls, and then we'll start applying the silicone conformal coating. So like I said before, this is a job that's a lot easier to do as you're building versus after you've already gotten the quad built. Today we have our flight controller lifted off of the PDB. You can see how dirty it is. We're going to need to get in there and do some scrubbing with the rubbing alcohol. Now, one thing to keep in mind, some of your components, like your USB port and your any kind of ribbon cable, you're going to want to make sure that you have these covered up with either some tape, something to where you do not get conformal coating in these plug headers, because it will make it so you don't get a connection when you go to rehook everything back up. We'll take our little soft bristled toothbrush and dip that into the rubbing alcohol, and try to keep your wires out of the way the best you can. Just get in there and just start scrubbing the board. Not too hard, but just get in there and just kind of start wiping the board off with the toothbrush. You see I got like a fleck of grass in here. This board is really dirty. We've got all the tape removed from the ESCs, and what we're going to end up doing is I'm going to desolder all of these motors from the ESCs so we can pull the ESCs and the boards and everything out as one piece, all the electronics, and that way we'll be able to slip our new heat shrink for our ESCs back on after we resolder and attach, and then that will be our last conformal coating. Will just be these 3 solder joints on each ESC to the motor. So definitely a lot of work to do this after it's been built. We have desoldered all the ESCs, unplugged the camera, the receiver, and the VTX is just going to hang on the back here. Now we're going to pull out all the electronics off the entire frame. So now we'll have this big old stack of parts and wires loose that we can clean, scrub, and eventually conformal coat. But you can see how this is kind of rather tedious after the fact. So we'll have to cut all the heat shrinks off each ESC to conformal coat each ESC. We have to clean everything, the bottom, the back of the board, the tops of the board, bottoms of the board, clean everything up, have it nice and neat so that we can go ahead and apply our conformal coating. This is definitely a good time to go ahead and clean your frame up, spray it down, wipe it down, get it all cleaned up so that when you put it back together, you got a nice clean quad. We have the back side of the power distribution board cleaned off, scrubbed off with the rubbing alcohol. Now we're going to take our conformal coating. Now, put something underneath of the board to kind of catch any runoff. I'm going to go ahead and unscrew your lid for your conformal coating. Now, it's a little tiny brush. You're just going to take it and you're going to brush it over the board. Just like that. And we're just going to soak the entire board over the pads and the whole board itself. Make sure you do this in a well-ventilated area. We're also going to remove the back plate of the camera, 2 screws, and we're going to pull out the camera board on the Runcam Eagle 2, and we're going to coat the entire board, all the circuitry, being careful not to get any of the coating in the plug headers, because if you get the coating in there, you're not going to get a good connection when you go to plug in your power wire. Also, we're going to make sure that we do not get any of the coating on the sensor. So you'll see the sensor on the other side. We're going to make sure we get everything coated around the sensor, but not actually on the sensor. Okay, I've brought the board inside, and where it's nice and warm, we're going to go ahead and coat the one side of the camera board, making sure we do not get any of the conformal coating in the plug headers. And I'm just coating the entire board till it has a nice shine. And once you see that nice shine, you know you have all of the electrical components covered. But just take your time, make sure you get all the spots on the board. Okay, you can see we've removed all the plastic off the ESCs and the receiver, and we've coated everything. You see how shiny it is. You want to have that shine all over your electrical components, the buzzer, the flight controller, PDB, ESCs, receiver, and then eventually VTX. Here you can see we have a nice coating on the flight controller. See how shiny it is? And also on the VTX. We removed the heat shrink and we have a nice shiny covering of that silicone conformal coating. Now let's go ahead and talk about cure time and all that good stuff. So you want to make sure you have about at least, I'd say at least an hour or two in between coatings. If you have it in a nice warm area. I brought everything inside near a heater where it was nice and warm, and that definitely speeds up your drying time. Now cure, when it's completely cured, will be about 48 hours. I went ahead and reinstalled all our heat shrink on our ESCs and on our buzzer and on our receiver, and we went ahead and shrunk those down. Now we got to put all these components back into the frame. Now we have the components back into the frame, and we've soldered our motors back, and this is going to be the last bit of conformal coating we do on these last solder joints from the ESCs to the motors, and this guy's going to be ready to go. Alright, here comes the scary part. Seeing if this thing will fly again after we put it all back together. Okay, here goes nothing. Got video.
16.7 volts.
Arming looks okay.
16.7 volts. 16.7 volts.
We now have a waterproof quad. Have success. The Tbs Source One is now completely waterproof thanks to our MG Chemicals silicone modified conformal coating. If you have any questions about conformal coating, I'll try to help you out the best I can. Put it down in the comments and we'll make sure we try to get to it for you. And as for me, I'm probably going to be actually silicone modified conformal coating all my quads. Even my little whoops and stuff. I think I'm going to just go ahead and get those conformal coated. And that way, if I happen to land in a puddle, it's no big deal. But yep, we got her back together and she's flying great and looks great as well. And now we have one less thing to worry about: the quad getting wet and things not working. Thank you guys so much for watching. Please like, share, and subscribe. And until next time, guys, edrone out.